at Waverly, Kansas, and we've decided we'd like to get some sort of record of the Perry family past by having Dad Perry tell us a little bit about his early years, Carbondale and particularly in Idaho, matter of the family record. So we're going to be doing an hour or so of discussion. I presume that thing picks up well from there. I don't know how good those audios are.
It did on Eric.
They're pretty sensitive.
Yeah, most of them are. We had no trouble in that. Okay, Carbondale.
Now what do you want?
Yeah, that's the next good.
Well, what do you-
Well, now, were you actually born in Carbondale?
No, I was born 4 miles west, northwest.
Northwest of Carbondale, on a
Farm.
farm there? I didn't know that, I'll be darned. Were most of the family members then born off out of Carbondale? Clint and the others?
No, I don't know.
You're what, third oldest?
I'm fourth.
Fourth oldest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill, Marie was the oldest, and Bill, and Happy, Ray, and me.
Okay, yeah. And your dad was full-time farming then, or was he already working for Santa Fe? at that-
No, he was working on the farm.
On the farm, yeah. When did he go to work for Santa Fe then?
Oh, be about 22 or 3,
Okay. Yeah, and you were born in
1907.
Seven, okay, yeah, 1907. And then he worked for Santa Fe most of the rest of the time from then on?
The rest
Yeah,
of the time.
yeah. And in Topeka or
Yeah,
traveling?
in Topeka.
In Topeka only, at the yards there? You know,
I
what
don't
was,
think Dad done any traveling at all.
what was his basic job with Santa Fe?
Refinishing coaches, the Pullman coaches.
Carpentry type thing?
Well, yes, it was finishing work, and
Uh-huh.
it wasn't carpenter
I'll be
much.
darned.
He was a skilled carpenter.
Uh-huh. I'll be darned, I didn't know
Was
that.
it sanding and painting and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And working in rosewood. I didn't even know there was rosewood till he brought some home.
You know, so you spent all your high school and grade school years at Carbondale.
Yeah,
Yeah. How big was Carbondale at that time?
about 300.
About 300. How many kids, let's say, in the grade school?
I don't know, about a dozen maybe.
Not a bunch in your class, huh? Yeah. And you graduated from high school in 28,
26.
26 graduated from
Yeah.
high school. Okay. Yeah.
And that's where you met Mom?
And I met her in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was 2
Yeah.
years younger than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you,
Her folks were, you might say, founders of the school itself.
of a Carbondale school?
Carbondale High School.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Rural high school.
I'd never heard that.
In what way? How do you mean founders?
Well, pushers, let's put it that way. The establishment. Of course, we had quite a lot of graduates before me, long time before,
Mhm.
but I don't know how long.
But, so there was a high school there for quite a long
Oh,
while?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I've heard rumors that my dad was a graduate of the Carbondale Rural High School, but I never could find a record.
How come they called it Carbondale Rural High School?
Because it was rural.
It was out in the country at one time?
No,
No?
took in the country.
I see, yeah. Yeah, because we used to call this Waverly Rural, I remember
Yeah.
that too. That was a Kansas thing, I guess, yeah. You played basketball and football and all of that at Waverly, at Carbondale? Yeah.
I was a 4-year member of the varsity team because the main team got caught smoking in the gymnasium, but they'd sitting in their can.
That's as good a reason as any.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who all did you play back then? Just the usual Scranton and?
Well, Scranton and Overbrook and Barclay, which was northwest or southwest of Old State City.
Barclay, yeah, I never heard of
Barclay,
it.
Michigan Valley,
Yeah.
two ghost towns now.
You just traveled by cars to the games?
Yeah, when we could find one.
Yeah. Didn't have to go by horseback.
No, no, it was past that.
Did you have Now, I've always been interested. Did you have full uniforms with the shoulder pads and
Yeah,
all the all the paraphernalia?
just
I
barely enough to fit the team out.
I see.
11 men.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that one picture they have of you playing football, but I don't think you had any shoulder pads or anything on that day, and I didn't know you were out there playing football.
I always had pretty good sized shoulders.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, was Bruce ever in school while you were there? He was.
Yeah, he was in high school.
Did he play football there?
No.
No, he wasn't an athlete. Yeah. And the guy from Erie, he was also in school then when you were there. Doc
Emery
Bryant. Yeah.
Bryan. He went to Scranton.
Oh, he went to Scranton. He
Yeah.
didn't go to Weir at
No.
Carbondale. Get out of this
He
way.
was in the Scranton district.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he and Bruce became friends after they left school.
That
Then.
while they were in high school.
Oh, but
Because Scranton, I don't believe had a high school then. I'm not sure about that because we always played in football.
yeah,
Maybe they did. I don't know just how that happened.
yeah, huh.
They might have just met in the army, as far as I know.
And in playing basketball, did Carbondale have a gymnasium at that time?
Well, we played out on the dirt most of the time.
Even regular ball games?
Until I was in high school, then they built the city hall and made it into a gymnasium, more or less.
Yeah, pretty small.
Yeah.
Shoot from one
Small
end.
and low ceiling. I could toss the ball up and hit the ceiling. In fact of the matter, I shot from the center of the court one time because there was blocks of playing Osage City. And I dropped to one knee and shot up and it hit the ceiling, bounced off the backboard and went through the hoop.
Was that considered legal?
Yeah,
That was okay? huh?
sure.
I know Lyndon at one time played down in the basement of the county courthouse,
Yeah, they did.
and he had to go around the doggone concrete pillars there.
Burlington had one the same way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, when you played,
Well, I played in Lyndon in that basement. I just couldn't remember what in the Dickman building it was in. Yeah, and then Burlington, yeah, had that basement gymnasium, but you at least didn't have to duck around the pillars. It was a pretty
No.
decent gym then.
but you had to be careful it didn't bounce off of it.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
And Barkley played in a church, and they had a heating stove in the middle of the floor, and we had to be careful we didn't bump into it.
Oh, gee.
They actually had it hot during the game,
Oh,
winter.
you had to in the winter. They were all freezing to death.
Yeah, I don't think Barclays had a school for any time I remember. They must-
About the time I graduated is when they quit. I
You
think.
know. Did you play Lyndon back then?
Yeah, we had.
They were part, because they're pretty close to Carbondale, yeah.
Yeah,
But none of the Topeka schools.
no.
Yeah.
We played the industrial school in football a couple of times while I was in there.
Yeah.
And we beat the heck out of them, but, oh, they had some of the biggest, toughest colored boys that you ever saw in your life. But I don't think they're interested in football.
Yeah, yeah. Probably pretty hard to discipline into a decent squad,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Well, then you, when you graduated from high school, you went into railroad work right away?
Yeah, the day I graduated, they shipped me a pass to go to Wycombe, Missouri, to join a gang there of signals, signal maintenance
Uh-huh.
installation.
Is that because your dad had worked in the railroad?
No, I had nothing to do with it.
I'll be darned, you just got a job with him.
I got the job because my grandpa knew the supervisor,
Ah.
signal supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, were you actually living in train bunk wagons or,
Yeah.
and went around fixing signals and
No, went around installing them.
installing them in the first
They were
place?
just barely putting them in.
I'll be darned. What do you suppose you were getting for pay then? This is 1926?
37.5 cents an hour was what I started with.
37 and a half?
Yeah.
Good grief.
And a half.
But that's pretty decent,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah, at that time.
when I started up there at Baker in 1951, I was making 35 cents an hour in the damn restaurant. You
I
know.
was making 65.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you got your meals for that.
Yeah.
I had to pay $1 a day for mine.
Oh.
Boy, they did feed you though.
Ha.
Oh, they had wonderful cooks.
Had a bunk wagon cook traveled with you all the
Yeah,
time.
and a big tank car full of water, because they never could depend on the water.
For criminy sake, how much of a crew were you worth at that time?
About 8 people.
8 people.
Were they-
All young men under 21 years of age. They
Oh,
wouldn't
that's
hire
kinda fun.
anybody that old.
What, they would send an engine out and hook up and tug you one place to another? Or,
Yeah, but that was very seldom.
oh, You didn't move a lot
Oh, no, no.
in one
we-
cycle
we-
at all.
We had several months' work at one station.
I see, yeah, huh,
At Osage City, we had several thousand feet of pipe that we put in to control the crossing signals and the interlocking signals that locked the track at one point
Mhm.
to go to another direction.
yeah.
Yeah.
These weren't electronic, this was all manual
Oh,
stuff,
there was no
just manual, push a lever type thing.
all the electronics that we had was by storage batteries.
Yeah, huh. And you were with the railroad, what, a couple of years in?
Yeah,
About 2 years.
during the summer.
Yeah, oh, I see.
Yeah, see, I got hurt awful bad the year I was a junior.
And junior in high school?
What
Yeah.
happened?
Oh, I didn't realize that was
I
high
was
school.
only about 16 years old.
I see, and that was up in Iowa,
No, Missouri.
where you got
Dean
beamed?
Lake, Missouri.
What was the name again?
Dean Lake, DEAN. There's a Bean Lake, Missouri, but
Yeah.
this isn't it. This is Dean Lake.
What part of the state was that in? I don't even know where that is.
That's north, kind of the northeastern part. Down.
Northeast.
Yeah, it's on Santa Fe.
Oh,
What
clear.
happened? What did you say got hurt?
As I was standing beside the track watching this train go by, and it was traveling about 70, 80 miles an hour. It was a fast mail train. Somebody tossed a horseshoe off the window and hit me over the eye.
Ooh,
And I saw it coming and swerve, or it took top my head off.
Oh, yeah.
ah,
So it just sort of grazed you. You
Well,
went,
it grazed me bad enough to penetrate my skull.
oh,
Oh, yeah, my brain's sticking out.
oh, gee.
never heard all that. You were in hospital then for quite a while.
Yeah, at Fort Madison, Iowa.
All right, that must be where I got the Iowa thing then. I knew there was an Iowa connection there.
Well, Brother Bill was working at Fort Madison, building concrete forms to put these battery wells in.
For the
to
railroad.
operate the signals.
Yeah, I see. I'll be damned. You were in the hospital how long then? Do you have any memory of that?
Oh, 2 weeks.
2 weeks is all?
Yeah.
Had stitches in.
I'll be danged. Pretty serious concussion.
I was pretty husky, yeah.
Yeah. Boy. Did they ever, do you know whether anybody was ever convicted or caught on who threw the damn thing?
No, they conducted quite a search evidently
Yeah.
because they told me they did.
Yeah.
But they've got it on exhibit at shops at Topeka.
Oh, for
The
Christ's
horseshoe?
sake.
Offices.
Yeah.
Hmm?
The horseshoe?
Yeah, it was a pony shoe and it was
Thin bladed.
like, well, like the shoe gets wore off at the toe.
Uh-huh.
And it was sharp. One of the boys went right down there and picked it up and said, "This must be it."
Oh, gee.
Good. And I never did go down. I was standing up all the time.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Didn't knock you cold then?
No.
Boy, oh boy. Good thick skull there.
Sounds like they
Yeah,
got-
but every time I took a breath and the bubbles would come
Yeah.
out, I could see them.
Ew.
I didn't realize you were still in high school when that happened. So
Yeah.
that knock you out of athletics your senior year?
No.
No? Healed up fast
Bought a
enough?
special helmet for me and I stayed right in there and played the quarterback.
Yeah.
Say they needed him, you know. There
Yeah.
weren't that many guys to,
They didn't have 11 men without me.
yeah.
Clinton was in high school same time you were.
Yeah, I guess he was.
He was 2 years younger?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah. Huh. And then you all moved to Idaho immediately in the summer of 28, 27.
27?
Yeah, a year after you graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were you and Mom married?
At Carbondale, at the, on the front porch.
On the front porch. And that, what was that author that,
He was
Did
a
the
dog
ceremony?
author.
yeah, wrote dog stories and kid
Yeah.
stories? Yeah. What in the world was his
And he
name?
was also an MD
Oh, he was?
and a PhD.
Good grief. How'd you happen, was he resident in Carbondale at the
Yeah,
time?
he was a preacher at the Methodist Church.
I see. Yeah, he had very, very popular children's stories. I know we had him here at Waverly then. I should remember his name, and I don't now.
I don't remember his name either.
Yeah.
It's bad that I don't.
And one thing I wanted to get, because you talked about a little before, you were telling me that at one point, somewhere early in high school, I think you made a trip out west with one of the Dietrichs? Over,
No,
when did,
that was after I was out of
Out of high school.
just barely out of high school. Milt Young
Okay, yeah.
was my uncle's brother.
And that was the summer of 26 after you graduated?
Yeah,
Yeah. Tell us a little about that.
well,
How come you went out there in the first place, and what was the trip like?
he had a brand new Model T, and he said, boy, that'll take us out there. And I said, how much am I gonna have to have, what? He says, if you can get $10. He said, that'll pay your share of the gas. So I hoed 10 acres of corn for $1 an acre that was coated with crabgrass to get that $10. And I sure earned it because it was hot that summer.
Yeah. And so you just took off in June sometime?
Yeah, must have been middle of June somewhere.
And I think you were saying that at one point in Nebraska, there weren't any highways at all. You were kind of going off.
That's right. You just took out there cross country.
Yeah.
We went across to western Kansas, and we had to go across one big wide river on a wooden planks. There was no bridge,
They just laid them right on the bed of the river.
evidently.
Huh. Yeah. How in the world did you find out where you were going most of the time?
Oh,
They didn't have any road
no
maps.
automatic compass. No, there's no road map.
Yeah.
There was no highway out there.
You just stop and ask directions now and then.
Didn't need to. There wasn't any place else
Oh, I
to
see.
go.
There was just one track and that was
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And there were no designated highways, and you weren't on
No.
Highway 37 or something like that.
The road past our place was what they call the Hawkins Highway. It is now 75,
Mhm.
but don't ask me why they called it that.
Yeah.
But that was designated as such.
Was it gravel, mud?
No,
Mud.
just dirt.
Yeah. Huh.
It wasn't gravel for quite a while after I graduated out of the high
It
school.
must have been quite a trick going through the mountain country then. If you
Well,
didn't
we
have-
didn't have any bad mountains to go through, only at Cokeville, Wyoming. We started up a canyon, and I was driving, and I hadn't been driving in the mountains before. And I kicked the clutch out, and I was gonna let her coast downhill, and hell, it stopped dead still. It was going straight up.
They just had kind of like wagon trails going through the mountains there.
Yeah, they was, I guess probably those old road drags that they had, they must have went over them a few times, because it wasn't bad. I know one place we run over a cow, or run over a calf that was laying on the road, and there was a whole herd of cattle, and we had to go through them. And all once we felt it bumping and bumping, and I looked back, and here was a calf running off the ball. That Model T hadn't hurt him much.
How did you make arrangements to eat on a trip like that? Just stop in little towns and
No, we stopped and cooked it.
stop and cooked it, buy
Yeah.
groceries along the way,
Yeah,
camped out at night just on the ground?
yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get out there?
Oh, a whole week.
A week, yeah.
We stopped one place in Wyoming. This I never forget it. It was along about midnight, and Milt says, "Boy, here's a park." He said, "Let's stop here," and we did. We stopped, and we was pretty close to a house, I know. And put our tent up and went to bed and got up early the next morning. And I made sure I got up early. Looked around, and we were right in between two dwelling houses. Yeah, so we got out of there. But that road was abandoned pretty quick after that, up over the mountain. It was a bear.
You were north of Lander in that area? Or south of it?
Well,
not
if you
Lander,
look-
but-
look at Cokeville. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know how it is in relation to Laramie in that country. It probably was pretty
Well,
much
we
the
go
same
through
route.
Laramie.
You went through Laramie.
As near west as we could.
Yeah. And then you went through that Bear Lake area in Idaho and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the reason you were going out there was because the uncle was already out there, or
Yeah, two uncles.
two
Uncle
uncles?
Bob, who founded the town of Bernice, and John, who went out after him. He
And
was,
these were Dietrichs,
yeah,
Bob Dietrich and, yeah.
John Dietrich.
And they owned farmland there.
Right.
Yeah. And
John did. Bob didn't. Bob owned a store.
I see, in
He
Bernice.
He ran a big store there.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
that's about the only building there was in Howard, or in Mora, Bernice, Idaho.
Yeah, yeah. And Bernice was right there on the Dry Creek, and no, Little Lost. I'm never quite sure where Bernice was. Just
Well-
around the butte from Marco.
Yeah, it was about 35 miles from Arco.
Is that right? Down toward Pocatello more.
No, it's north.
North.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pocatello was east.
Yeah, east and south. Yeah.
We could look right down the valley and it run almost straight east and west.
What was the nearest other town to Bernice?
How?
Howe. Okay.
It was
Okay.
as small a town as
Yeah.
Bernice was.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I get a little better picture.
And then our county seat was Arco.
And what'd you do when you first got out there with Mom? I'm jumping traces here.
Well,
Yeah, that's right, we were talking about the trip with
When I
Milt.
worked for John,
Yeah,
worked for him most of the time.
uh-huh. And that was in 27.
Yeah.
So you made a trip out in 26 with Young,
With
Milt Young.
Yeah, and then come back on a, you couldn't hardly call it a Greyhound bus, but it was.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And now the roads were so uneven that there was two drivers on this bus, and one of them had to run behind and carry a rock balanced on the back bumper in case it quit. It was a Fragile bus with an air-cooled motor,
Uh-huh.
but we made it.
What was he doing with the rock? I didn't catch that.
To block the hind wheel.
Oh, in case it started rolling?
Yeah.
It was a closed bus, they had windows. and-
Oh, yeah, it was a good tight bus. Everybody was all right, unless we were wondering how we was gonna get out in case it dumped it.
When Milt stayed out there and went to work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He stayed with John.
Uh-huh. And you rode the bus back. Got any idea what you paid for a ticket all the way back?
$25.
$25?
$25.
Holy
Pretty
cow. Yeah, that's,
I went to Bear River City, Utah, and top beats and picked up spuds for about a month before I come back.
I see.
Tried to get money.
Put a little money together, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty expensive ticket. $10 out and 25 back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had a couple of dollars left of that 10 too.
Yeah. Was anybody in the bus besides yourself on the
Oh
trip?
yeah, it was pretty well loaded.
I'll be darned. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I never guessed there'd been buses back that early. It wasn't Greyhound at the time, I presume.
I don't think it had any
Yeah.
particular name.
Yeah. Bus.
I expect the two guys that drove it owned it.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Huh. And it never broke down on the trip. Made
No.
it- Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
It got so hot sometimes you had to stop and let it cool off.
Yeah. Air cooled.
Yeah, it was an air cooled. It had what they call it, Fagel, F-A-G-E-O-L motor,
Mm-hmm.
French made.
French make, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of those used in aircraft.
Yeah, it was an aircraft.
Yeah, yeah. Huh. So you worked then through this winter of
Yeah.
26 and,
I worked, well, I don't know, I worked on a moving van in Topeka in the winter of 26 after I got back home.
when was, we had some pictures one time you were working, I think at Pomona with the
Oh.
railway when it was
Yeah.
flooding up there,
That was in 27.
27,
Yeah.
before you went west.
Right.
Yeah. You had a big flood in 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole flat was underwater there. Water up around the depot. We had to stay around. Fact of the matter is, we went a little short of food there for a couple of days.
Yeah. And that was in Pomona.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I thought I remembered.
And they had a big long trestle there where there was a lot of water wanting to run under it at times. But anyway, this trestle caught fire and burned up while I was there.
During the flood?
No, it was
Yeah,
after it was dry enough to burn.
yeah. Huh. And that was the main line of the Santa Fe?
Yeah, double line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's expensive. Muck up the whole system for a while.
Yeah, but they didn't keep that cars up very long.
Yeah,
They was right next door to the Missouri Pacific too.
I see.
I think they run some on there, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah. You and Mom were married and then took out immediately for Idaho, right?
Next
Wasn't
Next
somebody
day.
else traveling with you?
Happy.
Happy, just the three of you?
Yeah.
Oh, Happy and Milt.
No. This is the second trip.
Yeah, right.
Happy had a pickup and he said, well, I'll take you out.
I'll be darned. Yeah.
So the
You-
three of you were in a pickup.
Yeah.
That was cozy.
We went over the worst mountains in Colorado, boy.
Yeah, that's why I remember you went through the Denver area, didn't you, on that trip?
Yeah, we went through Denver and over through Bertha Pass.
Oh, man. And this was what, a Model A pickup?
Model T.
Model T pickup?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that'd be scary.
About a 24 model.
I can see Mom hiding under the hood, going up those old gravel roads over Bertha Pass.
We dropped down off the Bertha Pass, got almost to the bottom, and it was really dark after midnight. And there was a filling station open there, and we stopped in there. And I asked that guy, I said, is there any cabin around here or something we can sleep in overnight? Oh, yeah, I said, I've got one back here. He said, come on back and look at it. And I went back, and it was a nice little cabin. Wood in, cooking utensils and everything. And he set a bottle of whiskey on the table, homebrew, of course. And he said, leave the bottle, we're short of them around here. But anyway, the next morning I said, what do I owe you? And he said, is $1 too much? Plenty of firewood, hell, we even had some food in there.
For criminy sake. You had to use your own bedding, I presume.
Oh, I don't remember.
Would you
the
carry-
bedding. There was bedding there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Were you carrying bedrolls and sleeping out some nights?
No.
No, you slept in motels
we
and type
slept
thing.
We slept there.
That'd be the second night, probably.
The third night, we went over Jackrabbit Pass, Rabbit Ears Pass.
Rabbit ears, right?
And got down to the town on the other side, and we stopped there and stayed there overnight. Then I think we went on.
Uh-huh. Never had to go up backward on the old Model T.
No.
People used to talk about their best climbing gear was reverse gear.
Yeah, reverse because of the gasoline had flowed away from the outlet.
Yeah. So you made it out there in about a week again, and
Yeah,
yeah, went to work for John down the,
yeah. It
near
was
Howell.
about haying time.
That was near Howell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
within about 5 miles an hour,
yeah.
northeast.
Where did you live?
With John.
Oh, I see.
She said, well, you guys are going to stay with us. And so we stayed with them till winter set, and then we had a little house up by the store at Howell.
Hmm.
It was vacant, so we moved in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Ralph was born at Howell. I guess Lloyd was born at Howell too, wasn't he?
Well,
Or was he?
Lloyd.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We had a neighbor that was a midwife,
Uh-huh.
and Mrs. Burkett was her name.
Uh-huh.
And she took Mom in there in her house and kept her there for about a week, and
Hmm.
everything's going all right
Yeah. And that was at Howell still.
at Howard.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was, I would say about 4 miles northeast of Howell.
Yeah.
northeast.
And we're still talking 27, so the depression hadn't set in yet.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it was.
When did it
We
actually?
weren't talking,
29.
27.
29 was when it
Lloyd
really
was
got
born.
bad, yeah.
I was gonna say Lloyd, we're up to Lloyd's birth, that's beyond 27.
Yeah, Lloyd was born 31.
Because you're talking about depression, I was in the
Depression?
perpetual depression.
Yeah,
I didn't have any money.
yeah, there wasn't a whole lot available then.
Yeah. And, one of the, the superintendent of the irrigation project was named Woods, Martin Woods, and he had been a banker in Garnett.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And while he was there, he had one lung removed for cancer. But anyway, he said, I don't want you taking that Model T over town when you have to take your wife over. He said, let me do that dark for 30 miles. And so I was all agreeable, so I said, all right. And we started out. Mary started having pains. And said, you better go. He come down to the field where I was working and said, you got to get down. So we started for Arco, the hospital, and the damned old car is brand new, bought.
Oh,
We was out there, 30 miles between towns, and all there was desert, there wasn't a soul.
Oh, man.
But anyway, the neighbors went by, and some old boy in a Jackson, if you remember them,
No, I don't.
stopped and picked us up and took us on in. But he kept goosing that thing around, and he'd choke it to death the whole time, and it keep stopping.
oh,
I
gee.
got into hospital, which was on the upper story, and I picked Mary up and carried her upstairs and dropped her on the bed just before the baby was born.
Oh, now which
But
baby?
anyway,
Which baby was this?
Ralph,
This is Ralph. Oh, gee. What an
she
experience.
weighed more than I did.
With the baby. Now, what was the name of the gal there that ran that little kind of laying-in place in Arco? Annie Mame, or no, what was it?
Oh, Aunt Mame, but that wasn't her yet.
Yeah,
She
there was a hospital at that time.
Well, it was a one-room hospital.
Yeah, I wonder.
One bed.
Yeah.
There was an old lady there. She wasn't even a registered nurse. She was,
She was the midwife.
no, they had a regular doctor.
Oh, I see.
I can't even remember his name now. But anyway, everything went fine.
Yeah. Living out there at Howell, you must not have had much in the way of groceries, and that sort of thing available.
Oh, yeah.
Howell had a good
Yeah,
store then?
Good store.
Yeah. Huh.
Bernice did too.
Could you get fresh vegetables at all back then?
Oh, I guess we did. We got a lot more oranges than we do here.
Yeah. Huh. Coming up to California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got oranges at one time for 12 dozen for $1.
Oh, my
Good
God.
grief.
Ain't that something?
It's hard to believe you could ship them anywhere for that kind of money.
We got a whole carload of them.
Yeah. Good heavens. Yeah. So then you were at Howell and finally moved. Well, there was,
You were born in Arco, right?
yeah, I was born in Arco, and we were living at Darlington, I think, when I was born. I'm not sure. Were we?
No, Darlington's in the next valley.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think, when did you move to Darlington?
I only lived in Darlington 3 years.
3 years, is that all?
We moved out in 41, so it's about 38.
38, yeah. Yeah, I was born in 33, so you must still been at Howell when I was born?
I expect.
Yeah. What was wasn't there a little town between Darlington and Arco? We lived in?
Now.
That is
Oh, between Darlington, yeah, more.
Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we lived there for a while too, didn't we?
Yeah, oh yes. Well, we lived there for a year.
Just a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that may have been where we were when I was born, living in Moore.
I don't remember.
Yeah. That place at Darlington, that's the first place I remember. We were renting that.
Yeah.
Who were you renting from, do you remember?
Tom Moore,
Tom Moore?
the game warden.
Okay, that's a little truck. Getting a few jackrabbits and a few deer, and did quite a bit of hunting then, didn't you?
Yeah, oh yes, every winter.
You were saying you traded a 30-aught, or you traded a car for the 30-06?
I had a Buick.
Had a Buick, the
Yeah.
used car. And
Yeah. Buick 4, 1924 model, and traded it for this rifle.
yeah.
It was an old rifle.
Were you out of a car entirely then for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah. Had to hike.
But you needed the rifle to shoot game to eat, right?
I sure did.
And so what did you shoot?
Deer, antelope, once in a while.
And you ate that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get a deer in the fall, you know, and dress him out, and hang him up in the back room, let him freeze. They'd freeze solid. He's hard as a rock.
Yeah. We're out there with a saw and saw off a chunk now and then.
Yeah, axe.
Axe. Yeah.
Brother was an expert cook on them.
I can imagine she got to be after a while, yeah. A lot of good roasts.
Yeah.
And what would a good antelope dress out and meat at that time?
About 50, 60 pounds.
50, 60.
Yeah.
Were
Deer
you,
about twice that.
you had to have a license, normal manner to get,
Well, your license to kill anything that was available was for $3.
$3. And how many antelope could you get a year legally?
I don't know. How you could carry, I guess.
Yeah, there wasn't a limit, game
No,
limit.
there's no limit.
I see, and same with deer. Yeah,
Did you ever sell anything you killed, or did you just eat it?
No, that was one thing I didn't do. Only when I was trapping, I trapped quite a few mink while I was in there.
Oh,
out of the Little Lost itself.
Yeah.
Huh. How'd you go about trapping mink?
Well, you find a stream that was flowing, there was plenty of them, even before low weather that flowed.
Yeah,
And set the water, trap in the water and hang a rabbit foot above it.
I see.
Yeah.
Use a rabbit leg as a lure, so.
Well, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, but they're just nosy.
You know, what do you suppose you could get for a mink pelt then?
$7.
$7.
I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty
That
good
was
money.
big money.
Oh yeah.
But I caught a lot of coyotes too. I averaged about $5 for them.
Oh, is that right? Oh, gosh.
what'd they do with coyotes?
Well, make jackets out of it.
Yeah, oh, they're beautiful skin.
Yeah. I remember the sheepskin jackets we all wore back
Yeah,
then.
they weigh a ton.
Yeah, they weighed a ton, but boy, they were nice and warm.
Yeah.
In that tough winter.
Now they make imitation sheepskin.
Yeah. Yeah, I can remember going to the dances there at the Carbondale, or the Darlington School, had benches around that big room, and people would pile those sheepskin jackets up along there, and kid get tired, just pile into the sheepskin and go to sleep. What do you remember about those old square dances? Who did the calling and who did the playing?
Milt Young done the playing, and I
What-
don't remember just anybody.
Play the fiddle, or?
Yeah, he was a good violinist.
I'll be darned.
At midnight, we'd all break off and eat.
Yeah.
Everybody brought something.
At midnight?
I can vaguely remember one of those square dances. There was a gal, she was a big gal, married to a little bit of a guy, and some sheep herder and he got into a fight, and she broke it up. Do you remember anything about that at all?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, the big gal.
Because there was so many fights there all
Is that right?
every night.
People drank at the things.
Yeah.
It may have been, what kind of a gal was Helen Headland? Was she a big gal?
She was a big gal, but she didn't have any kids.
Okay. But what, did she have a husband?
Oh, yeah.
Smallish guy?
No, he
No.
was a big, tall guy.
And then that wouldn't be the right one. Yeah. So one guy usually played for the square dances.
Yeah.
Just Milt.
Yeah,
somebody-
I
Huh?
courted on the piano.
I'll be
Oh, you
damned.
did?
Yeah.
Played the piano.
Yeah. And he usually was a caller though.
Yeah, they always was.
Yeah. How many people would attend a square dance like that?
Oh, probably about 24 maximum,
Yeah.
And how often did this happen? Every week?
once a week, Saturday night.
Everybody just bring a potluck dish and serve it at midnight and go on dancing again. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Must have been a trick getting all those cars started in the middle of winter after the dance was over.
I don't know that, but I had one of them.
Little bulky at times.
Ordinarily, I had Model Ts. Model Ts are a little bit hard to start.
You always had to crank then for the most part. Huh. Let's see. We were just in Darlington 3 years, and mostly raising alfalfa and wheat,
Yeah. Alfalfa.
a little bit of cattle, or
Barley.
did you have cattle? I remember sheep, but
Oh, I had a milk cow or two.
yeah, I remember doing milking
Yeah.
out there in that pole corral. Remember the thrashing crews? Who usually did the thrashing? Who owned thrashing machines around
Well,
there?
the Jackson brothers were one pair. They had a Rumley oil pull and a Woods Hummingbird, and Jess Stroke had a Old Fortune and a Woods Hummingbird that he pulled with it. And let's see, there was another one. Anyway, when I first went out there, it was a Red River Special, but it caught fire and burned up.
For Christ's sake.
Yeah.
You didn't think there'd be enough wood in one of those things to burn. Of course,
Oh, it was
the
all
slats.
wood.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a wood unit. I see. Huh.
No, this Red River Special was wood.
Yeah.
The Woods Hummingbird was tin.
Yeah, that's the way I remembered them. What, you had to work on a crew then? You'd go help other people and then they'd
Yeah.
help at your place?
Yeah.
So you didn't have to lay out a lot of cash to get the...
Oh, I just lay out on occasion didn't have any.
Yeah,
Wheat was selling for around 35 cents a bushel.
uh-huh. What could you get to the bushel back then, there in the valley? What was a good acreage production?
Oh, somewhere around 100 bushels acre.
Is that
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
If it didn't stay pretty close to 100 bushel, it was a crop failure.
I'll be darned. Yeah, and that was irrigated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Boy,
was about $30 to an acre of land.
yeah, that's pretty damn decent production. That was what, 160 acres, that farm at Darlington?
No, that was a half section.
It was a half section,
Yeah.
320. I'll be darned. I remember it being that big. Yeah.
It was scattered all over creation. There was on both sides of the road.
Yeah, yeah, I remember it went up to that there was a kind of a coulee up to the, I guess it'd be south toward Arco. And
Yeah.
I remember a big field
Oh,
going off that.
was Antelope Valley.
Antelope
It
Valley.
was big.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was 60 miles long.
yeah. I have a good memory of that morning. Remember the mountain lion was out there in the back.
Oh,
You went,
the cows?
yeah, you went running around back with your long-handled underwear on, as I recall,
Yeah.
the 30-06, and took a crack at it. Was that the same night that it killed a beef down at the McAfee?
Evidently was.
At Carlisle's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it killed one there. And she sure give mine some exercise.
Yeah. But never had a good shot at it. Did you
No.
ever kill a mountain lion while you're out there?
No,
Yeah.
I never
They,
even seen one.
yeah, they weren't even that common, I don't suppose.
They followed me around up the mountain when I'd be up there deer hunting, and a light skift of snow on. I could see when I crossed my tracks again, there'd be mountain lion tracks on them.
When you went mountain or I'll get there, deer hunting up there, you mostly went on foot, and then if you got
Yeah.
one, just dragged the thing back?
Yeah.
Boy. What were you hiking in a day's time then, 20
Well,
miles?
I'd just drag it to the foot of the mountain or where I could get the car to.
I see, yeah, yeah. You could usually get a deer every year or two,
Yeah.
yeah. Surprised they weren't cleaning them out pretty badly during the Depression, everybody trying to hunt them for food.
There weren't enough people around there.
Yeah, that's true, there wasn't a big lot of folks in the valley.
Then pretty quick, the government put in the nuclear station.
Arco,
it's
yeah.
called,
Yeah.
and they disappeared pretty fast
Yeah.
from then on.
A lot of guys with a lot of time on their hands and guns,
Yeah.
yeah. When did you first run into Gallopin, the old sheep herder that came there and stayed a couple of times?
Oh, he had a Chevrolet pickup with a wooden box on it that he lived in.
Yeah,
And he come there and wanted work one spring.
during the spring, yeah. And that, he was just there that one year?
No, he was there 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I remembered that thing parked in the yard, and he lived right in that box, and
Yeah.
he did sheep herding some of the time, do I recall, or just
Yeah,
odd jobs?
I never knew him to do sheep
I
herding,
see.
but that was his life.
Yeah. Gallopin Jones. And somebody told me once he married the gal that owned the store there in Darlington and kind of settled down afterward.
I don't know.
I'd heard that story somewhere. He was just a young fellow then, though, wasn't he?
Oh, he was middle-aged almost.
Oh, was he already?
Around 48,
Yeah.
45.
I just have the vaguest image of him going out there and chatting with him in his old box and sitting on the.
Yeah, he was talking about who called those dances. There was a guy by the name of Moffett, an old man. He was the guy that wore his red handled underwear all summer long because he said they'd keep the heat out as well as the cold. But anyway, he was herded sheep in the summertime. And one time we was short a caller for the dancer, so a couple of the guys got a car and started after him. They run over him.
Ran over him.
With a Model T, yeah.
Oh, good grief.
Evidently didn't hurt him a whole lot.
It kind of slowed down his calling a little
He
bit.
was laying asleep in the damn track.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Are you drunk or something?
Huh?
Drunk?
No.
Sleepy.
Good grief.
He didn't get drunk up in that mountain.
Yeah. Who ran most of the sheep up in there?
Oh, a guy by the name of Woods. Woods Livestock Companies had several thousand.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Little was several. he had about 3,000 or 4,000.
What would a sheep sell for then, probably, when they were matured in the fall for meat?
About $20.
$20?
Lamb, yeah, they
Wow.
sold lambs.
So that was pretty big business. You had 2,000-3,000 sheep and
Oh, yes.
sell off maybe 1,000 a year.
Yeah, but you're paying at least 2 herders for all summer long.
Yeah. Most of those guys worked with dogs.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had to have those.
Yeah.
They couldn't handle sheep.
Were you involved in shearing the sheep?
No, I wasn't. One thing about shearing sheep, I heard about them. They got wool sores disease, but wool sores disease is anthrax.
Yeah. Oh, I never heard that other phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from there.
Yeah. Yeah, anthrax, pretty serious business.
Yeah.
Did they have any of the Basque fellows in their sheep
Oh,
herding?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There's a guy come up from Boise Valley. He had several sheep in there, and I was trying to think of what his name was. But anyway, he had some Basco sheep herders. And he started back to Boise with 3 of them in the trailer in the back end and dumped them over and killed them.
Good grief.
No, you never heard of more.
Things a little crude back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about the time you and Clint rather, were guarding that dam up there. How'd that get started and how long were you up there doing that? Guarding the dam?
Well, the dam was built during World War I,
Uh-huh.
and it had some big machinery up there. Steam and I guess he got so poor that he couldn't hire anybody else, but we volunteered to stay up over winter to keep it. Now, they threatened to blow it up,
Yeah, I'd heard that.
and
This is what, just one man owned that dam?
no,
It was
Oh.
one of the water cooperative, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. And what was the trouble with it? How come people were wanting to blow the thing up?
Well, they claimed he was stealing their water.
Uh-huh.
He was storing the water in the dam there
Right, right.
in the wintertime. And the old settlers wanted that water to run out through their place and out into the desert.
Mhm.
That's all that ever happened to them. But there was a lot of some killing over the water,
People shooting each other, yeah.
Yeah. knifing more than anything
Yeah,
else.
okay. Now, who was actually using the water then? Right there in the Little Lost Valley?
Yeah, it couldn't.
That was where we got our
never
water?
got out. But the Big Lost was a little bit higher than the Little Lost, and they built a ditch from the Big Lost River back around the point of the mountain and back into the Little Lost Valley. But they never got any water in there.
Oh, for heck's sake.
That was millions of dollars.
Oh.
Probably, let's see. Jensen was the name of the builder that built it, and he stayed in the valley after that.
Yeah. But you guys were up there in the mountain and just that one winter?
Yeah.
Yeah. And doing it voluntarily, weren't earning a salary at all?
Well, we were supposed to get $60 a month, but we never did get it.
Never did. Just some good exercise.
So where was your family during that time?
I sent Mary and the kids back home,
And that was a winter of 29, 30, 31?
somewhere along in there, yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Back home to Carbondale?
Mm-hmm. She come back with milk.
I see. So it was just Ralph and Lloyd then, or?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
yeah,
sure
that's
Ralph
all.
was, would Lloyd have been born then?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it was after 31 then,
Yeah.
So she had the 3 little boys.
2.
too, yeah.
Oh, you
Because I was born
were
33,
that's
see.
right.
Yeah. Huh. So you were living at Moore when that all happened?
No.
No, at Howell
I'm
still?
still out now.
Out in Howell, yeah. You're out in Howell longer than I realized. I never put that together quite. You used to do quite a bit of trout fishing up there.
Oh, there's wonderful fishing, yeah.
Where particularly?
Dry Creek,
Dry crickets.
yeah, up there where the reservoir was.
Went up there in Model T.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I recall once or twice having several families go up there and have picnics and go
Oh,
trout
yeah.
fishing. Who kind of pushed that?
I don't know.
Just,
Church, I think.
yeah.
But we had several church picnics on Dry Creek. That was just up, about 12, 15 miles up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was separate from the river. And this whole creek, a regular river, come out from under the bluff there. And you had to drive across it, driving up the valley. But anyway, it was a pretty wonderful thing. And it was spread out over quite a lot of area. And it was really a trout hatchery all by itself.
Were they planting trout already back then?
Oh, no.
No, just native stuff?
Yeah.
What, cutthroat or rainbow?
There was some cutthroat, but mostly rainbow.
Mostly rainbow and natural. And you could catch enough to do a feed for a church group? And,
Oh, yeah.
huh,
I caught as much as a water bucket full at a time.
I'll be darned. That was the good old days.
Quite a job cleaning them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all you had to do is split them and whip them a little bit, get the entrails out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're so much easier to clean than a catfish, not even comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. What else do you remember doing out there that was really fun back in those years?
Well, hunting and fishing and
Yeah.
trapping.
Trapping.
That, I'd take my pitchfork in the spring and I'd pitch hay as long as it lasted, and then wheat,
Mm-hmm.
barley.
Just whoever neighbor needed some help.
Yeah.
You know. We're talking about trout fishing. I have an interesting memory. My gosh, I must have been not more than 4 years of age. We went up in the mountains one time with, what's his name up here near Topeka? Buddy that came out there years.
Oh, yeah. Jug France.
Jug France. I remember Jug France and maybe one other guy. And I remember we were walking through a meadow kind of place, and you could look down in the damn creek and just see trout swimming all over
Yeah.
in there, but they wouldn't bite.
No, not as long as they could see.
Not during the see, yeah. I remember very frustrating about that. Any idea what creek that might have been? It was just kind of a cut through a grassy meadow, and the creek it wasn't certainly as wide as from here to the door.
It
And you look-
sounded like it was part of the creek, Spring Creek,
Spring Creek.
along the foot of the bluff there.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember, I haven't been back to Spring Creek since I've grown up, so I don't know where that is at all.
Well, it's spread out where it comes out from under this bluff for, maybe darn near a quarter of a mile. But it isn't that big a stream once you get back into one channel.
You know. How'd Jug happen to come out there, just for the fun of it?
Well, Jug France and Eddie Wiedow,
Yeah, Eddie Weedow, that was the other guy.
they got into some trouble there at Carbondale, had to get out. Fact of the matter is, they left on stolen gasoline.
Oh my gosh.
Stopped and got their car filled with gas and left.
And that was when, about 36, somewhere in there, 37?
Somewhere along in there,
Yeah. And then they stayed in Idaho how long?
Well, Jug stayed till he went into the Army.
Around 1940, 41,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Eddie went to California and got into trouble there and got killed.
I never heard that story. Somebody shot him or something?
No, got killed with some machinery, as I remember.
I see. Yeah. Huh. They were both Carbondale boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both in high school.
Yeah. Huh.
Just wild kids, they never done anything bad, but they would lift a little gasoline.
Yeah.
Jug was still, I was up to Carbondale reunion last winter rather. Jug was there.
Yeah.
He had a real bad heart.
Yeah, you told me that some years ago. He'd had a heart attack, I recall. Huh. Yeah. Well, several interesting memories of Idaho, but they're kind of hard. I remember that airplane crashed out there in the flat. He was chasing coyotes and whacked into a butte. Is that anybody you knew?
No, he run into a rock on the side of a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't have enough poop to get him out of it.
You know, had a little Piper Cub, as I
Yeah,
recall.
it was a Piper Cub.
Yeah.
Kill him?
Yeah.
Yeah, it killed two of them. Their shoes were still in there, where it knocked their shoes off.
Good grief. Just ejected them right out through the front of the thing, and yeah. I knew we had pictures around there of it from some time. When did Badger come out there, Vern.
Vern.
Was he there before you all came
He come out the winter I moved to Big Lost.
to Big Lost? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. And they already had some kids by then.
Oh, yeah, after 3 girls.
Yeah. Yeah, all I remember is when they lived right there under that little butte by near the grade school. Yeah. What was he doing? Just farming? Same thing?
Well, he bought that farm,
Oh, I didn't realize.
where he talked to that guy out of it. He had a trucking company and couldn't be bothered with the farm so much, and they weren't really valuable. But it was a good farm.
And he was doing trucking.
Yeah,
Went down to Pocatello and that sort of thing?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And, well, wheat out of the valley and whatnot. He hauled that big dredge in on the Salmon River with his truck. It weighed, I don't know, about like hauling a locomotive around.
Mhm. What was his wife's name?
I don't know. Oh,
Vern's
Vern?
wife? I don't even have a memory of her. Did she die younger? Or?
Yeah.
I always remember the girls, of course, but I don't remember her.
Iris.
Iris.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She was a beautiful girl.
Huh. I just have no memory of her at all. Yeah. Let's see, Idaho. Then we left Idaho in 41.
Yeah.
Came back to Kansas. Yeah, I have some vague memories of that trip. Particularly, of course, that night we went into not Lander, but
Laramie.
Laramie in the snowstorm.
Yeah, boy, it was blizzard.
Yeah. Yeah, I have just this memory of coming into Laramie in the middle of the night, seemed like, and we found a cabin camp. We were all damn hungry. It seems to me you went out somewhere and found a guy that had a couple of cans of pork and beans he was willing to sell, and we heated up some pork and beans, and that was
You know, that's a funny thing, too. Lloyd was sick, so I went uptown to get some medicine, some aspirin for him, and it was about three-quarters of a mile into town.
Mhm.
But anyway, I was walking along the road and this snow, I was hunched up against the snow, and here a big old dump truck stopped. Said, "You want to ride into town?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I got in there, and this was a girl, a young one, driving a damn thing. And I said, asked her, I said, "Aren't you married?" "Yeah." Said, "They just got married today." I said, "Where's your husband?" "Oh, he's out elk hunting." I said, "He sure must like to elk hunt." But anyway, she hauled me in there and hauled me back out.
Oh, for heck's sake, in the dump truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can vaguely remember that little cabin camp out there on the highway.
That old gal was very reluctant. She only had one cabin open.
Uh-huh.
And she said, "Oh, your kids will mess all this all up." I said, "No, they won't. They're pretty good kids. They're all right."
Yeah.
She finally let you in.
Yeah,
So
that
how
was-
many kids did you have at that point?
Well, just 2 boys.
No,
I thought there
no.
was 41.
41, let's see,
Oh, yeah,
Ralph
yeah.
and Lloyd and myself, and I'm not even sure
Lorna.
what, Lorna, yeah,
Yeah.
right, Lorna was just a baby, I think.
Yeah.
So there were 40.
Yeah, and I remember we had the back seat of the car piled up so high, Lloyd and I basically were up on top of the pile, and that we could peek down over the edge of it.
I hauled all my belongings back with me.
Yeah, yeah. 41, and then we moved, well, let's see, we stayed with Grandpa and Grandma there in Carbondale for a while.
Yeah.
I remember near the school.
Yeah. About the time he died, I guess.
Yeah, I can remember him, but it wasn't very long. I remember there was a wheelchair there, and,
Yeah.
It's Grandpa Perry.
no, Badger.
No.
Badger.
Yeah, and worst part of that I remember is we all went through a siege of scarlet fever. I guess,
Yeah.
and were quarantined for a while.
I was wiring up the valley of the Big Lost River, and Mary called me and told me I better get back here because it was getting pretty serious back there.
Yeah,
So I come back.
yeah. As I recall, we had a room up in the attic where the boys slept,
Yeah.
and I never got the damn scarlet fever, so I was hanging around the house there for about 2 weeks. Lloyd got it, and then Ralph got it or something. And I couldn't go to school, but I could stand there in the yard, just practically right across the street, watch the kids playing at the playground, and man, that was a bad time. And then I got shipped off out to Bill's for a while. They figured if I went out there, I could still go to school, and so I stayed with Bill in Florence for a little while.
How long were the quarantines? A couple of weeks.
Well, a couple of weeks, I think,
Yeah.
typically. But they used to go around and stick a sign on your door, quarantine, lepers here,
Yeah.
pretty common. And then we moved out to the farm there at Carbondale in 42,
Yeah,
summer of 42.
Yeah.
We were renting there.
you know, we was talking about those fish. I used to save the entrails and the heads,
Mm-hmm.
put them in a fruit jar and bury them in a manure pile, and they turned to liquid.
Yeesh.
Stink, oh boy, but they was a good coyote bait.
Oh.
Yeah,
Guy who could smell that downwind a ways.
yeah.
Who did you sell furs to back then? Who bought?
I don't remember who. But,
Somebody in Arco?
no, there's a traveling man come through there. Mainly I sold to him because he didn't mind taking those mink. I was supposed to have a license for them, I didn't.
Yeah. How many mink you suppose you caught back then?
I caught 7 in 1 year. I don't remember how many
Wow.
more, or not
Yeah.
very many, I don't think.
That's pretty decent money during the Depression.
Yeah, darn right.
Big saver. I remember we had a few sheep around, not very many. Yeah.
Yeah, I had quite a bunch of sheep when I was up on that Laird place.
Mm-hmm.
And got up one morning and here was a dead sheep dotted all over the pasture. So,
Coyote got at them, or
no,
just disease?
I don't know who got no. But anyway, I set some big traps, the same ones I set for coyotes. And I heard the yelling one night. Bill was living with us then.
Mhm.
He said, come on, he said, we got some dogs out here. So he took the old shotgun and he shot 2 of them. They're big mastiffs,
Ah,
fancy dogs.
for heaven's sake.
I don't know who they belonged to and I didn't care.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my neighbors come and looked at them and said they had wool in their teeth. They deserved to die.
Wow. Yeah, I remember we had one dang little lamb that us kids played with, but we'd let him butt us around, just playing. And if he got a little bit bigger, that was a little bit dangerous. He'd whack people pretty hard.
You know, the stroke, or not stroke, but stopper kids, they had a buck sheep, little lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd get down and they'd butt him with him, pretty quickly. They got too old.
Yeah, we had kind of the same problem.
Yeah.
Our nearest neighbor was the McAfee's then, over there right on the river practically.
Well, McAfee's
Kind of-
lived quite a ways away, but there were still one, no.
Carlisle's were the closest, yeah, that's true. They weren't more than half a mile away, were they?
No, they were in the same section.
And he just ranched,
Yeah.
farmed there. Yeah. They seemed to do fairly well.
Yeah.
He must have had a nice little spread there. What was
They had
Charlie?
a boy by the name of Charles,
Right.
and he went to college, and then he joined the Navy, and he wound up in charge of that induction station at Hanford.
Yeah, he was on nuclear submarines, I remember, for a while. He was the one that showed up on, what was it, I Have a Secret, the national television program you all had told me about.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
seems to me
remember.
you all had told me one night you were watching TV, and this fella comes on and announced because he was second in command, I think, of the first sub that went under the
Right,
North
yeah.
Pole. Yeah.
Seawolf, I believe. it
Yeah, I
was.
think so, yeah. And that was his secret, that he'd been on the nuclear sub. Yeah, he worked pretty closely, or at least he was one of the boys that worked with old Admiral Rickover.
Rickover,
Yeah.
yeah, he was his hero.
Yeah, right. Is he still alive, do you know, Charlie?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I know the parents have been gone quite a while. And they lost a girl, was killed on the highway there, wasn't she?
Yeah. She was.
Jeannie.
She was riding a horse, and the horse was hit by a car traveling 60, 70 miles an hour. Now, Charlie was riding the same horse
Oh, he was on the horse,
back on, and
Ah.
he got off without a scratch.
for
And
heck's.
doesn't harm the horse, but it killed the girl.
Huh, did the people stop, or was it a hit and run type thing?
Oh, he knew who it was.
Yeah. Huh.
He's an Arco man.
Was that right there near our place on the highway, where that happened?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, because they live south of the highway
Yeah.
quite a ways, and, yeah.
if the kids had gone down that little road, they'd have been out of harm's way, but they didn't. They went through our place normally.
Yeah, yeah. And that was when, about 37, 38, she was killed?
Must have been,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was quite a tragedy. And I remember Ralph getting hurt on a horse too.
Well, we had a little black mare, you know, and she was jealous as could be. And Ralph was riding another horse out to get her, and she kicked him.
And that was across the highway from our
Yeah.
place. What, we were renting a pasture over there?
Well, I rented that place, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't remember that being part of the regular place. That was a separate rental?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Vern lived there for quite a while. And
that was on that same piece,
Yeah.
Vern's piece, yeah. And what, he just, as I remember, she kicked him in the knee or something
Yeah.
while he was on the other horse.
Yeah.
Boy.
She was pretty jealous of somebody riding somebody else, yeah.
You know, you actually owned horses then.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
had 5 or 6.
Yeah. I recall that there were occasions when people would lose horses there because wild horses would come down and lure them off.
Yeah, or they could go out and catch one and break him and work him.
Lived up there in the mountains and,
Yeah.
you know,
Hell, they come down right in the settlement.
I see, during the day even.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
They had to come down there to drink most of the time.
You know, come down from Curtin River. Yeah. So it wasn't too expensive getting a horse then,
Oh, no.
if you're willing to break it
A
anyway.
very good horse was worth about $35.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But that's always a hard thing to remember, you know, you talk about being $35. Boy, $35 is a lot of money
A lot
back.
of money, you
That
bet.
was a good month's wage for some people. Well, maybe we ought to take a break for a minute. I need to
Yeah,
go
I
to,
want to go get the mail.
and I need to go to the bathroom. Everybody will want to know
You have
that.
on that.
There it is.
You can get as much as 8 hours.
Oh, well, I guess we're not running out then.
But,
I wouldn't-
You have to
but
turn it over.
8 hour, there's a,
I will.
Scott could explain, but there's a high quality and a low quality, and depending on the way you play it, you can get 8 hours or 4 hours or something.
Okay, on
But
how you record
You got
it?
lots of time, yeah.
But, so you're recording it on 4 hour?
But we are now in record mode again.
Oh, we are. Oh, all right.
Yeah, go ahead and,
Okay. Let's see, is there anything we want to do back in Idaho? Anything you can think of, Dad, that was particularly different or enjoyable we might get on there? I remember one thing, we used to have around the house, as I recall, a sales slip of a bunch of hogs you sold right at about 1939 and during the Depression. You recall anything like that? I'm always interested in letting people know what prices were like back then, what a day's wage was.
Okay. Well, yeah, back to Little Lost, I sold a farmer a stack of straw. And didn't ask for any money for it. Well, he said, I'll make it right for you in the spring. His name was Anderson. But anyway, in the spring, he come to me to get it square. He give me a sow and 10 pigs. And 11 other pigs,
Good grief.
feeder size.
Yeah,
Well, that stack of straw was about all the feed he had for his cattle.
I see.
I never asked him anything for it, but along in the middle of the spring, when I got those pigs fat, they got up to 11 cents a pound. And my gosh, I made a potful out of that.
Yeah. And that was, again, 37, 38, somewhere in there?
Just before I moved to Big Lost, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Huh.
So you have raised sheep and cows and horses and pigs.
I didn't raise any horses.
You just had horses?
I just worked them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that was trick enough, working horses.
Yeah, that's right. And those horses out there, you had to break them every time you hooked them up.
Start over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High spirited.
Did you ever, you were successful at getting sage hens occasionally, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
How big did a sage hen get?
Well, they get 6 to 8 pounds.
6 to 8 pounds,
Yeah, that's
about
pretty
like a
good
small
size.
turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
How in the world would you hunt those darn things, though?
Why, they're in wheat field, or not wheat field, but in the alfalfa field.
Just scare them up, shoot them with a shotgun like
Yeah.
like quail?
Awful slow.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a prairie chicken? Is that the same?
No, they're not seeing,
It's a grouse,
big grouse.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen one or two of them in recent, well, through the years along the highways. I'm always astonished how big they did get.
You'll do good.
You know, so you could hunt sage hen and you could hunt the
How about pheasants?
Yeah, there's.
well, they're pheasant then?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I got almost stuck in a pen one time for shooting a pheasant. I went down to my friend's for a bucket of water because my well had gone kind of dry, and I took the 22 along with me. And as I was walking along the road, a pheasant got up and way up in the air and I shot him. And the old boy on the next side had been the sheriff in Oklahoma. Wrighton was his name. And he come after me, and while I was walking out the house, I picked the feathers all off and tossed them over into the brush. And he got there and he wanted to see that bird, and he looked at me. I said, "That looks just like a chicken."
A little confused on that point.
Yeah, he was getting a little old anyway.
Yeah.
He was the guy I helped haul the log out of the canyon with too.
Oh, yeah, tell that story, or is that locked out of
Oh.
order here?
Bill Wrighton spent some time up in the canyons scouting out a log. He wanted to take a log to the sawmill to build a shed. He had sawed up and built a shed out of it, and he asked me to go along and help him haul the log down. Well, we went up, and with a 6-foot crosscut, we barely sawed the log in two because there wasn't much left over on each end. But we hooked his team of horses on this saw log and started down the canyon, and in the middle of the canyon there was a jump off rock ledge there about close to 100 feet high. And I said, "Bill, you better take this team off of this log and hook them on the back end and give it a bunt over that drop off." "Ah," I said, "they'll take care of themselves." So I just backed off, and they'll get up Nellie, and away they went, and over that hump they went, and down they rolled down the canyon
The log went between them?
between them and tipped them over and rolled them down there, and we had to cut the harness off of them. It didn't hurt the horses any.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. I thought it'd kill them.
Yeah, their legs are so darn vulnerable, you know, they get tangled up
Yeah.
like that and jerked around. You think it'd break a leg somewhere, or at least sprain them.
He might have been right. They might have took care of themselves. I don't know what else did. But anyway, we got the darn thing down and patched the harness up with bale wire, and got the log rolled onto the sled, bobsled, and the log weighed several tons because it was awful big. But anyway, we got home long, way after dark.
You had to clear up on a wheeled vehicle, or were dragging
No,
one
no,
in?
it was a bobsled.
Bobsled. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Snow
yeah,
on the ground.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'd be a lot easier pulling, all right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have to high so high
Now,
either.
there was almost 3 feet of snow on the level up there.
Wow.
Yeah, that always astonished me. I remember some pretty good snows up there, and yet it was dry country, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
I
it
don't-
was.
I don't
But
suppose-
in the spring, those when the snow melted, there was water come out of those canyons. A lot of it.
Yeah, I know we had pictures around of a good flood there on the valley. Took out that bridge, didn't it, on the
Yeah.
on the Little Lost at one point,
Yeah.
right there near McAfee's.
That come down out of Antelope Canyon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember. It's been quite a good flood.
Yeah.
Trying to remember some of our other occasions. I remember once, well, no, that's kind of some goofy story. Remember we kids got into picking up all the bones and not everybody in the family was picking up bones. We had a big old bone pile out in there in the yard. Somebody came and got it because they were using the bones to make fertilizer or something.
No, they was using them to make sugar,
Sugar.
to bleach the sugar.
Oh, for heck's sake.
Somewhere or other, that's what I sold them to, was a sugar factory.
Yeah, yeah, I know we had quite a bone pile out there in the yard.
There was bones scattered all over where people had drug their dead animals
Yeah.
out on the desert.
We didn't have any involvement with the potato business, did we? But there was potato raising there in the
I
valley.
raised potatoes there 1 year, 2 years.
Commercially?
Yeah.
Huh, well, you subcontract to a potato
No.
processor?
No, I just raised them.
Uh-huh.
And sold them mostly to merchants in town,
I see, yeah,
Arco.
yeah. Yeah, I remember some of the good currants and that sort of thing that grew around, boy, there's
Oh, yeah.
marvelous.
That's a currant cover.
Jelly, couldn't beat that. There wasn't an awful lot of berries and that sort of thing around other than that I remember.
But there's several of us that can back me up, but there was a grizzly bear carcass in there.
Yeah,
in that currant patch,
Yeah,
South Creek.
yeah, that had to have been there a while.
Yeah, it was pretty well desiccated.
Did you ever know this guy they called Buffalo Jones? It was kind of interesting. I've mentioned that one. That friend of the family that put together a little book about the county that was around Mackay. She'd taken the Mackay newspaper basically and made up a book of stories about the Mackay area and down the Little Lost. Custer County, or no, I don't think that was Custer County up there.
That was Custer County.
Was that Custer around Mackay? And she mentioned this fellow Buffalo Jones in there who lived up into our time. He was supposed to be a fellow who had called the alarm at the Battle of Adobe Wells in Texas, one of the last Indian battles, and then he'd moved into Idaho and been there. I didn't know whether you'd ever known him or not.
You hadn't heard about the earthquake that hit Mackay?
Well, no.
Dallas?
That was in the 50s or 60s?
Oh, no, it was in the 60s.
In the 60s, yeah. Did quite a bit of damage.
Pretty well wrecked Mackay.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a bar. Idaho was open liquor for a long time, but there was a bar there in Mackay they called the Antlers Saloon, and it was a bar I would guess probably 60 feet long, completely covered with silver dollars.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, I wondered what they ever done with all those dollars.
Yeah. Huh.
How
Yeah.
did they keep them there? Of course, they glued them down.
Yeah. First basketball game I recall, I think we went down to Arco, but I'm not sure. I think it was a high school basketball game, and my memory is that there was a guy that played a saw at halftime.
Yeah.
You remember
That
anything?
wasn't Arco, that was Moore.
More.
Yeah.
They had a high school.
Well, I was in the game before that too.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah,
Oh, they
before the high school.
had a town team game type thing?
Yeah, with the CCC camp
Yeah.
up the valley.
Yeah.
Some pretty good boys there.
Yeah, I would imagine. Where was the CCC camp located?
In the mouth of Pass Creek.
Oh, I see.
As you go up from, see there's a little town between Mackay and Moore. I don't remember what they call it. About all it was a church, but it was at the mouth of the Pass Creek.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they built this camp up in the Pass Creek.
Couple hundred fellows, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there was that many.
Yeah.
And they built some beautiful roads and bridges up through that Pass Creek.
Was that the same area where the big flume came down, the log flume came down off the mountain? I remember one up there.
That's from the mine. Up above Mackay. But I was trying to remember what they called the mine. The mine I worked in was the Daisy Black, but it was in a little valley.
Mm-hmm. What were you doing in the mine?
Mucking.
Mucking,
Yeah.
pulling out the junk.
Shoveling dirt.
Yeah.
Well, they called it dirt. What it was crumbled up rock.
They'd blast it,
Yeah.
and then you'd bring it out on those little cars. Were they using push cars? Push?
No, they
No.
didn't have it. Well, they had one car, a tram they called it,
Mm-hmm.
and was pulled out by a mule.
They'd pull it with a mule,
Yeah.
Didn't have to push it by hand every time.
But I got caught with an explosion in there too one time. The miner I was working with was loading a mine full of dynamite,
Mm-hmm.
and a guy come up from down the lower floor wanting to know when we'd be ready to shoot, because we had to shoot at the same time and get out of there. And
Mm-hmm.
we told him, and 15 minutes there, it went off.
Oh, for Christ's
Blowed
sake.
our lights out. Well, here we were. Boy, it's pitch dark down that mine.
How far in were you?
Oh, it was down 1,000 feet underground.
Yeah.
So how'd you get out?
Pretty quick, we got our lights lit. We had these carbide lights.
Yeah.
Blowed them out too, but we got ours lit enough to get out.
Now, most people wouldn't know what a carbide light was. You might describe that. I remember Werner, somebody had one around.
Well, it's a little miner's lamp that's designed to be carried down in places like that. And
You used powdered coal,
no,
finely powdered?
carbide.
Carbide.
Yeah.
And what was that made of? Just petroleum somehow?
No, it was dry.
Yeah, I remember it was a dry powder. I'm trying to figure out what carbide would be made of. Never did know for sure.
Interesting. Acetylene.
Yeah.
That generated acetylene gas,
Uh-huh.
and you could regulate it by the dripping of the water on the carbide, how fast it generated this gas.
So you had to carry a little bit of water in the thing all the time, and it dripped on the
There was a
carbide.
separate, bowl about that big around,
Uh-huh.
just to carry water in, and above that was a little place for the carbide.
And that generated acetylene gas, and that's what did the lighting, was the
Yeah.
burning of that.
This is in lieu of a flashlight.
Yeah. How long would the charge last?
Oh, it lasts 4 or 5 hours.
Good grief.
Yeah.
Not very much light, I can't imagine.
Well, no, but then a little tiny bit of light, there's a lot of light down there.
Yeah, and when they drilled the holes, were they doing that with a sledgehammer? Or
No.
they had power drills?
Machines,
Uh-huh.
water liners, they called them. They had to insert water in there with it to keep miners' consumption down. That was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, keep the dust down.
Yeah, the dust.
And so these things were powered by
Compressed air.
compressed air that pumped outside all the way down?
Yeah.
Huh. Good grief, that's fairly sophisticated stuff for that time.
It's a 50 horsepower motor that they hooked on the generator to compress this air. And a 50 horsepower motor would just barely run two mining machines.
Mm-hmm. Two drills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. You basically had to walk in and out every time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And going down so far, we had to crawl down
Oh, my
on
gosh.
ladders,
Yeah.
slippery ladders. Everything was wet.
Dripping all the time.
Yeah, we wore heavy raincoats and hip boots all the time.
Were they pumped down there all the time then?
Yeah,
Yeah, had to keep pump going.
yeah.
How long did you work in that mine?
Oh, 2 different winters
Is that right?
to make some money. It cost, I got $5 a day for working down there, and it cost me $1.25 a day to eat.
Oh, gee. It's a little
They
disproportionate.
had a
Cook shack.
cook shack right there outside
Yeah,
the mine.
Oh, yes, they had a couple of women there that was wonderful cooks. But I had a neighbor there, and I moved away from him. Every time he sat down at the table, he'd reach out and get a whole pie and pull it up together and eat it.
For heaven's sake.
Yeah.
A little bit of a pig.
He was a Pollock.
Yeah.
Hungry bullock.
I got away from him after that.
You were living up there in a mine shack kind of thing, and
We were living, Bob and I were living together
Mhm.
in a shack that belonged to Isidore Fallard.
Hmm.
But it had been a working mine at one time, and this was a good house.
Mm-hmm.
And we just lived there for a couple of 3 months that winter. And,
I didn't know Mom had ever lived up there.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Pretty good elevation there? Or just
Oh, not, about 5,000
about
feet.
5,
Yeah.
not that far above the valley floor then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mom was cooking on a wood stove, and
Yeah, that's all there was to cook on. There's no coal in Idaho, there's no fossil fuel at all.
yeah. So you had to do a little wood cutting all the time. Yeah, that must have been a pretty tough way for her to, did all her washing on just a scrub board, and
Yeah, but she didn't have much washing to do there. I don't know what we did do with it. It didn't occur to me.
wore the same thing several days.
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah. What did you do for vegetables back then? Mostly just ate canned stuff?
Yeah, mostly, but we could get some fresh vegetables, some lettuce, bananas, oranges,
I'll be darned.
yeah. Pretty much modern stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about the stores then. It always surprises me that there was already such a good distribution system in that area.
Well, they were old timers, you know.
Yeah. Arco was what then? Probably 1,000 people, something on that
A
order?
little better than that, not
Yeah.
very much,
Yeah.
not that.
Not much more, about like Burlington.
And they imported the electricity clear from Pocatello.
Mom just cooked on a wood stove then most of the
Yeah.
time, and a lot of frying, I suppose.
And she could do a wonderful job for some reason.
Oh, wow,
Of course, I was always hungry.
Yeah. Hard working outside does that.
Yeah.
Kept chickens and
Yeah.
raised your own eggs most of the time.
Milk your own cows.
Yeah, I know we milked cows at Darlington because I remember as a little bit of a kid
Well,
milking.
there was a time when I didn't have a cow and I bought milk from a neighbor for 10 cents a quart.
Good rich milk. You know.
Yeah, it was whole milk.
Yeah. Well, we might move up to Carbondale. We were at Carbondale then on the farm there from what, 41 to 43?
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year. Is
Yeah.
that all?
Yeah.
When were you out in Utah? You weren't out there and worked, I know, for a period of
Well,
time.
that's when I was in Idaho before I was married.
No. You know, we were out there on the farm. One of the nastiest
Oh.
periods I can remember because Lloyd and Ralph both came down with mumps, I think it was. And you were out in Utah working on that wartime project out there.
Well, that's
developing.
when we were in Idaho. Or, Carbondale.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Carbondale, yeah. Yeah, and that would have been about 42 probably.
Right. Yeah.
And you were out there how long?
1 year.
Just one full year out
Well,
there.
I was out there 2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
But Mom was back home with 2 kids.
Yeah, I know, because when the boys were down, I had to do all the milking and feeding the cattle and one thing and another. Yeah, that's a bad memory there. Well, we had a cow. She disappeared one day, and second day I finally decided I better try to find her, and I couldn't find her. The darn old fool, she tried to go under a fence down by the creek, and she bogged down in the mud so deep she couldn't get out. And time we got her out, I got some neighbors and asked for help, but by the time we got her out, it was too late. She died. And I always felt very badly about that.
How
Well,
old were you?
Oh, I was only in the second grade by the time we came to, fourth grade time we,
yeah.
no, I can't remember. Third or fourth grade, I guess, by then.
I paid that all back. Old Ben, he turned his cattle out into a milo patch, you know, that he'd cut and then it sprouted up green, and he lost 6 cows there in 30 minutes.
Oh, boy.
So I had to come butcher one of them for him.
Ha.
I knew how to butcher a cow.
That was there at Carbondale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
They
grief.
floated or something?
No, they just
Poison.
boy.
Oh, it's poison.
Yeah.
I've never heard that on Milo.
He should have had better sense because he's farming all his life.
Yeah. Now, I remember particularly, too, that tornado hit that night there at the farm in Carbondale. You remember much about that?
No. That was on the original place right there, east of Scranton.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They pulled all the nails out of the damn corn shed.
Oh, for heaven's
Yeah.
sake.
Moved the chicken house a little bit on
Yeah.
its foundation.
And I never even knew it. Yeah, the chicken house was right next to the house.
Yeah, right, real close. Yeah, the thing I remember, I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was just dead still, and it just didn't seem right, so I went downstairs and hollered at you and Mom, and you came back up and were having trouble getting the door open. Ralph and Lloyd were in the bedroom, but by then the pressure had changed,
Yeah.
and it was hard to get that door open up there, and then we all went downstairs, and it was just over in a minute.
The walls of that house were full of brick. I don't know how come they done it that way, but you couldn't hear anything outside.
Huh. That was another thing. I remember while we were there at Carbondale, we had an ice one of the old ice refrigerator things, what do you call them?
No,
Icebox.
Icebox.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bought that thing somewhere, but we didn't have a refrigerator until got that one from Grandma out on the farm at Waverly, as I recall.
Yeah.
That was
We hung our stuff in the well.
at
Keep
Carbondale.
it cold down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been a trick. You know, have to practically kill a fresh chicken every day or something like that to keep meat.
You know, the well was right next to the house, and we had a good basement on the house, and it was full of water, and the well was dry. Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember one time we took a flashlight, hung it down in that well on a string, and you could see salamanders down on the bottom of it,
Yeah.
fiddling around.
I
on it.
fished out a couple of bottles of beer somewhere or other.
So-
Still good.
Somebody dropped them down in there.
Yeah.
Well, now, when did you get electricity?
On the farm at Waverly.
Once we got out of Waverly.
And about when would that have been? That was after World War II, wasn't it? After
About
40,
45, I
Oh, was
guess.
that-
just about the time the war was over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went into business then of wiring houses for everybody.
Uh-huh.
And I wired half of the houses around the country there.
Yeah.
And there's still, never one of them blew a fuse.
And that was their first wiring, huh?
Yeah, oh yes, that was when they first brought the power in.
Yeah.
Waverly had power, but the rural areas didn't.
Yeah,
you know.
right.
Yeah.
Waverly had their own powerhouse, did you know that?
No, I didn't know
They
that.
had a great big old gasoline engine that they cranked, and one guy got wrapped up in it and jerked his arm off.
Wow.
Potter,
Oh, is that right?
not Lloyd, but
No, his brother, yeah.
Yeah,
Hopper. Where in the heck was that located?
that's where this library is.
I see.
That was the original powerhouse.
By golly, I didn't even know there was such a thing. Huh. And that was after we got here, that was still operating.
Before we got here.
Before.
Yeah.
It was taken out by then.
Yeah,
I see.
the motor was taken out. They
Uh-huh.
still use the fire.
Huh.
I guess KP&L hooked onto them then.
Used their transformer there, stepped down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their transformer, I don't know just what would be the voltage on their powerhouse.
Stepping back a bit, how did you happen to find out about the farm in Waverly, and how did we happen to get that?
I was talking to some guy about I was gonna have to move because I wasn't gonna stay there. It was too poor a place. And he said, well, the National Reserve Life up in Topeka is trying to sell some farms down there. He said, all over the state of Kansas. He said, you can just take your pick. So I went down there, and my gosh, they practically kidnapped me and kept me in there when they found out I wanted to blaze. They would have sold me the whole damn country without anything down payment.
And that was about 42? No, 43?
Yeah, about 42,
42.
and we moved down here in 43.
Okay. And how much you have to pay for that place, you remember?
5,000.
5,000 even per near.
Yeah, for a half section with a new house.
Yeah, it was a good
Oh, wow.
house, good solid house, and a good barn really at that
Oh,
time.
Yeah, it was at that time.
Yeah,
With no fences.
yeah,
That was what whipped them.
yeah.
Some guy had been renting it for 5 years. His name was Hess, and they paid exactly $50 cash rent.
For 5 years.
5 years.
Gee. Yeah, there was some pretty tough stuff came out of the Depression. So the bank was still holding the note.
No,
It was a tax sale thing.
the National Reserve Life.
Uh-huh.
They had mortgages on Westphalia and everywhere else.
Mhm.
He took me around over the country to.
I'll be darned.
I picked out the best one of the bunch.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with that.
Oh, it was a dandy place, yeah. Just could hardly beat that thing.
Did you have to make a down payment, or how did you?
No.
pay?
I had a year to make a down payment.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Were you making just one annual payment a year then on the thing? And $1,000 a year or something like that? or-
Yeah, I agreed to pay that.
Yeah.
No. And so you had it paid for in 5 years?
Oh, no.
No, I had turned it over, sold it in about 5 years, and come to town and went to work
I
for
see.
the union.
Yeah, we moved there in 42, and you moved off the farm about 55, didn't you?
43. Yeah.
43 and about 50. I know I was in Germany when you moved into
Yeah.
town. So it was about 10, 11 years altogether out there.
Yeah, I really was.
Yeah, yeah.
And you moved into the big house?
They did, yeah.
They did,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a dandy place out there. I can always remember when we first moved there, going up to that spring, and you could look down in there and there were big old
Sun perch.
sun perch in there,
Yeah.
biggest sun perches I ever saw. Apparently nobody ever fished it.
And that water tasted wonderful.
Oh, it was good water. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Somebody would have been useful over the time if you could pipe that clear over to the house. That would make
Yeah,
good,
or move
good
the house
house.
clear up there next to the road.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I wanted to do.
yeah. And that'd been quite a chore because that was an awful nice house. The basement, I remember, had problems with.
It was sitting on 12-inch square walnut logs.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't.
had to bore through them to wire the house.
I'll be darned. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
There's stone underneath them yet for the foundation
Yeah, oh yes.
into the
stone
basement.
Foundation.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
where did you learn to do all the wiring?
Well, let's see. I'd worked with Santa Fe on that signal service,
Uh-huh.
and I picked up enough there to go ahead.
That had been a long time before though, right?
Yeah, but I worked with Vern out there in Idaho. We wired up that valley.
I see.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Before I moved, yeah.
Ah. Wired up houses out there. So they had power up and down the valley even before 1940?
Well, Vern took over as manager of the co-op there. And, we went ahead and wired a bunch of them, and I never did get a nickel out of it. Not a nickel.
Ah, gee.
Well, one reason was because, like you said, you kids were getting scarlet fever and whatnot,
Yeah, yeah,
and I had to come back home.
yeah. Oh, that's the winter you were doing
Yeah.
that, yeah, yeah. Haha. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of cash back then, and
No.
hard to get a handle on it.
So some of the kids were born here on the farm, were born out there on the farm?
Lynn and Dale.
Yeah, Kenny was born at Carbondale, if I remember
Kenny
correctly.
was born out in Idaho.
Was he in Idaho?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just,
yeah. And then, yeah, Lynn and Carolyn born on Waverly. Nobody born at Carbondale at all? Yeah, of course we
Lynn.
weren't there. Lynn was born at
yeah,
Carbondale.
going into three.
Yeah, yeah.
So start reminiscing about stuff like that. You remember things back that you
Yeah.
shouldn't really.
Yeah, yeah, you kind of get a stream of consciousness going and pull stuff back. Yeah. Yeah, I remember pretty nice being there at Carbondale because the first chance we really had to get acquainted with a lot of the family. And I remember that trip back from Idaho just very vaguely, other than the night there at Laramie. Somewhere along the line, I remember we stopped at a cabin camp in another town, and some guy had a funny little dog, like a rat terrier, that he taught to do a bunch of tricks. But it seemed to me that was kind of nice, warm weather. We were out playing with that dog. That must have been a different trip. I don't remember.
Well, no, we had that bad spell. That was the worst early spell that ever hit Carbondale.
Mhm.
And it froze up everything and killed it.
Hmm.
Even fruit trees and all.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it warmed up after that.
Well, maybe that was how
I
it all.
remember playing football with Aaron and you kids, you know, just kicking around the yard.
Yeah.
Who was that?
That was Phyllis Flynn. She said maybe you left your beige coat at the football field, do you know? The big heavy coat? No, it wasn't yours. You had yours. Okay, they evidently came up with one and wondered if it was.
Extra
mine
coat.
left, yeah.
Trying to locate. Yeah.
I had no extra coats.
Okay.
Well, let's see now. Out there on the farm at Waverly, trying to identify. We moved there in '43, and you didn't go to wiring houses till probably '45, '46.
About there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Trying to farm and do that at the same time. And I remember putting in the power plant for Harry Snyder. He had a little generator system. You put all that in, wired the house and put the generator in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you finish up where the kids were born? That's where I left.
Yeah, well, I think we got Kenny,
Kenny was born in Idaho.
yeah,
In Arco?
Lynn, Yeah, well, Darlington probably, while we were still living in Darlington, I guess. I didn't remember that. I lost track of when he was born.
Lynn was born,
So you realize,
Lorna had to be born in Idaho too.
yes, right,
She
she's
was
older.
born before Kenny.
Yeah, Lorna was very sick. We had to rush her into the hospital one time. She had cholera in Phantoms. You ever hear of it?
Uh-uh.
I hadn't either.
And that was in Idaho or in
In
Kansas?
Idaho.
Yeah,
So she's just a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
something she got from the water?
She passed it, no. I don't know what it was, but anyway, Mama had to set up and feed her scraped apple once every hour for about 2 or 3 days. there.
Good grief.
For heaven's sake.
Made
Yeah.
Scraped apple for her.
I remember when Mom would go in to have a baby, one of the things you used to do is to make,
Cornbread and meat.
no, cornstarch pudding.
Yeah.
Make up a big old pot of cornstarch pudding. That'd be dessert for 3 or 4 days. I don't have any idea how cornstarch pudding is made even.
You have to cook it, so.
The cornstarch was its own thickener.
Cornstarch and water and flavoring, vanilla flavor.
Yeah.
Cook it
Fairly simple.
a little. Yeah.
Milk.
Pretty good though. I always enjoyed the taste. It was just kind of like a vanilla pudding.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Lynn was born
In Carbondale.
Carbondale.
Yeah. And then Carolyn and
No, Waverly.
Well,
No.
Lynn was born in that house a half mile west of Four Corners.
right
Yeah.
on the farm at Carbondale.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right. And then Dale and Carolyn and
Ellen.
Ellen on the farm at Waverly. Yeah. Yeah. Tough times. Waverly. Mostly raised cattle. Probably the big end of the income on the Waverly farm was selling cattle,
No, most of the income was grain,
grain.
Yeah. and I raised a few hogs, and I raised a couple of carloads of sheep one time.
Yeah, I remember that
Now-
year. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the day we loaded those suckers out.
Yeah.
It was a rainy, drippy day, and the damn things had gotten into cuckleburrs.
Yeah.
And they'd go up the darn chute to get on the truck, and then they'd decide they didn't want it, so they'd turn and jump, try to get out of there, and we'd try to grab them and get them back up there and grab that wet cuckleberry thing.
But when I bought them things, I don't remember how much I was in debt, but about $20,000.
Ooh,
And I fed them suckers out. They were about the size of jackrabbits when I bought them.
yeah,
I made $4,000 clear money.
good grief.
Yeah.
You went down into Texas or somewhere to buy
No,
those?
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Just bought them out of Kansas City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Huh.
Texas lambs.
Yeah, oh, okay. I knew there was Texas involved there somewhere. Yeah, I know we spent a lot of time that summer shepherding those darn things. We didn't have pasturage, fenced pasturage, so
There
most,
was no pasture. It was dry as a bone.
yeah, it was a bad year. Remember the time you had to shoot the coyote out there?
Yeah.
When you're getting the land.
Well,
Well, he was trying to.
yeah,
He was up there and I sneaked along the hedge fence and caught him standing still for a second.
a pretty long shot as I recall
Yeah, it
too,
was,
like
about
200
200
yards.
yards.
Yeah, yeah. Checking out his breakfast.
And there was another one with him. There was two of them together.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
They took off north toward the fence. I shot at the second one and he rolled a couple times, but I evidently didn't hit him.
Barked him, scared him. Yeah.
So if you didn't have pasturage, how did you make so much money on the animals? What'd you
I
do?
had 40 acres of soybeans that were just about that tall, and I lost a hell of a bunch of lambs. But there's a funny thing, I counted out more lambs than I bought.
Just more in the flock than they counted properly.
Yeah, they were so small they didn't try to count.
Yeah. Shuffle them on there. You have any idea what you paid a piece for them? Yeah.
$6, $7.
Yeah, I suppose that's, yeah, that had to have been when I was about a freshman in high school, about 47, right in there, after World War II, as I recall. Yeah, that was quite an event, all right.
That was when Alan was born, right?
Well, somewhere in that period, yeah.
Yeah. So in there
I think Alan was born more like 50.
I thought you said you were a freshman in high school.
Well, but no, Alan died. I don't think Lloyd was even at home anymore. I think Lloyd was already in college when Alan died.
No, I think Lloyd was home.
I can't.
And George, or Kenny,
Ralph?
Ralph, was in the Air Force.
Yeah, yeah. And he went in 47, I think. Something like that.
So you lost Alan and Ralph, fairly
Fairly close.
Really
They
close.
moved together.
Yeah.
the oldest and the youngest.
Yeah, I remember when you came home, you'd taken Alan to the hospital in Emporia, and we kind of walked out to the car, and I asked you, where was Alan? Dad said, well, he won't be coming home. That was a real shock, because none of us had any idea he was that badly sick. It was a pretty quick thing.
Was it pneumonia?
Yeah.
They called it double pneumonia. I remember that phrase was used,
Yeah.
whatever that meant.
Okay.
And nurse said he didn't have any lungs left to go.
Oh, boy.
Huh. And he was how old?
Yeah. Oh,
About 6 months.
yeah, yeah.
That's pretty sad.
Well, that's probably about enough for now. I'm about out of things to...
Everything else they can remember on their own, huh?
Yeah, well, no, there'll maybe be another time when Lloyd and some of the other kids are here want to ask some different questions because they remember different things. So I'll close it off. This is still October the 30th on 1995, and we're going to quit recording for a while.